Hey, church folks. Glad we're going to be together. I'm not here. I'm in a van right now, running behind this week, and didn't get my video recorded before I got out. So you get me here, which is fun. And so I'm sitting at a campground, sweating. It is very hot. But you get to pick your week for the float trip. You do not get to pick your weather. So here we are. But yeah, I hope you all are doing well. You're staying in the AC, you're staying hydrated, because it is going to be a scorcher. But that being said, let's talk about where we are and what we're talking about for the text for today. So in the text for today, let's start first with last week. So last week we talked about walking on the water and Peter, whose name is Stone, which is interesting. The rock, Petra is rock, and the rock floats. Kind of a fun little twist on words there. But we talked about Peter losing focus because the cares and the troubles of things around him seem scary, that we think that the blessings are ours, and after we think about those blessings, when we start to possess them, we can sink when they become overwhelming. We don't put them in perspective of where those blessings live and reside. And how that connects the theme to today is, Joseph's situation is really interesting. That there is a whole host of story. We're getting at the very end of Joseph. Usually, you're probably more familiar with Joseph and the Coat of Many Colors, or the 70s musical Technicolor Dreamcoat, if you prefer. But it's this whole cycle of Joseph's life. We're here at the very end, and so if you know his story, if not, I'll give you the Cliff Notes. But Joseph was his father's youngest son, and clearly his favorite, and it really frustrated the brothers that their dad would dote on Joseph to the degree that he did. And so they got so angry that they decided to sell their brother into slavery. And so what they ended up doing is they ended up putting him in a pit and taking his coat and putting blood on it and taking it back to his dad and telling him that his son was dead. And then they sold him to slavery and split the money between them all. And so that's terrible, right? That's an awful situation. And that leads Joseph to Egypt, where he is sold to a man named Potiphar, and who's a wealthy guy. And he begins to rise in the ranks at Potiphar's house, to where he's the number two. He's the steward of all of Potiphar's property and all of Potiphar's stuff. And Potiphar's wife ends up kind of destroying Joseph's life again. So he's doing really well, and calamity strikes again. Potiphar's wife propositions him, and because of that, he says no, runs out, and he is then put in prison for rape of the Potiphar's wife. And so he's thrown in prison, and years go by, and the Pharaoh has these dreams that he can't interpret. And so Joseph is then called out of prison because he says he can interpret the dreams, and he ends up being restored and slowly working his way as an advisor to Pharaoh, and then moves up until he's number two. There's Pharaoh, and then there's him, and he's over all the land. And so that's where we start the text for today. That Joseph has gone through this kind of up and down situation, and now he is the number two guy in all of Egypt. And so his brothers come because there's a famine in their land and there's no food. And so they're trying to see if they can trade coins for food, because they're going to starve to death otherwise. They don't recognize Joseph, but Joseph recognizes them. And so there's this interesting exchange where Benjamin is kept, and the brothers are, really upset, realizing, listen, we cannot lose another brother. We just about killed our father the last time we did this, so take whoever you want as a slave. Just don't take the new young kid. And so basically, Joseph reveals himself to them and saves the whole nation of Israel because of the situations of his life. And so, that's the whole, interesting part about all this, is that Joseph's family then gets moved to Egypt, and they end up spending their time in Egypt. That kind of puts a whole session forward that is really kind of it's a providence, if you will. It's a whole moment and movement to where the snaking movement of Joseph's life ends up being the thing that saves, all of, basically the future of Israel. That when Joseph's family comes, they multiply to the point that they get too big and they become slaves in Egypt. And that's the later Moses story, but we're not there yet. So, what I want to talk about today, and how things kind of differ, is that whenever we have these kind of traumas in life, or these issues in life, we think that they're bad, and they are bad. I mean, they're not. Getting sold into slavery is not good, and so, but we often don't think about how those ramifications of terrible moments lead us to be able to see the world differently and to help other people. That sometimes our present calamity, our present pain, leads to a providence that we were not expecting. And I think that is also like that Peter point, where we get distracted and we get overwhelmed, and then we have to cry out to God and we get closer to God. Like, that's part of the faith. But also the present calamity, I don't believe that God zaps us or whatever. I believe that life happens to people. Unfortunately, cancer, death, terrible, terrible stuff. But I also think that God can use that towards good. And so I think of, like, we're going on Labor Day weekend, the lady who's going to preach for us, because I won't be there, is named Diane Yancer, and she's like an adopted mom to me. And a few years ago, I can't remember exactly when, but it's been a number of years ago now, her son was named Josh, and he died in a motorcycle accident. And she was in the middle of seminary when it happened. And it was a awful, terrible, terrible, terrible time. And at the time, she was like nannying my kids while going through seminary. It was her part-time job. And so she will tell you that my kids saved her life. Getting up and having something to go do every day was a big part of it. But now she's a hospital chaplain, and she talks to people all the time who lose their kids. And I know for a fact she'd have her son back in a hot minute. I mean, she doesn't want to go through that again. But that terrible trauma allows her to minister to so many people. And it's such a big part of her ministry that she has that understanding, that the depth of the sorrow that, some people just never know. So, and nobody should know what it's like to lose a kid. But it's also beneficial to know there's somebody out there you can talk to. And I think that looking at the trauma, the calamities, the terrible moments of our lives, they suck. I mean, I'm not going to say they don't. But I think they can be used to bless others. And I think that right now, when things are hard, when life is difficult, there's war, there's inflation, there's not enough money to go around, there's enough worry for 6 people, and it's all on our shoulders. I wonder what this is going to prepare us for. I wonder what good can come of this crucible moment. I'm not saying the moment is good. It's not. It's awful. But I wonder what is being prepared for us what are we being prepared for? What good can be done because of the world is the way it is? And I need to believe that this is just not just general suffering. That it's just like, oh, times are tough, things are hard. Buck up, Buttercup. I need to believe that God is preparing and working and using this for the betterment of others. And so I think of something like Joseph that has his multiple moments of, I mean, you got to think about your brother sold you into slavery. How low is that? And then you finally dig yourself out, and you know, the guys that you're running his whole household's wife tries to seduce you, and you try to do the noble thing, and you still get thrown in prison. You know, you spend some time in prison, and then you're all the way back up, and then your brothers come back. I mean, it's this topsy-turvy world we live in. And, you know, I think of all the moments in my life where I had a sister who attempted suicide. I had one of my kids get really sick when they were young. I had all these life moments, plenty of times when I didn't know how we were going to pay the bills. You know, I think all of those moments, and I think about them and I go, man, you know what? They formed me into the person that I am today. And they've given me a resilience that when little tough times come, I go, this is nothing. But at the same time, it allows me to relate with other people, to minister to other people, to love other people, because I understand what they're going through. And so, I don't know where you are in your life. I don't know what the good, bad, and the ugly. But I do know this, that I know that God loves you, that God is there for you. And it's not that God is going to fix everything immediately. Joseph spent years in prison before things got put into place to where he could be pulled out. But if we remain faithful, we remain consistent, God will use that calamity for good, some way or another, in some way or another, to help others, if we continue to be faithful people and ask for that. And so, as you go this week, as you run, as you pray, as you get mad, as you do all the things you normally do, just think about that. Think about that. What current hardship is God going to use to bless other people, to save other people? All right. Have a good week. I love you all. Have a great time. Bye.